Our first action item is a discussion and approval of our June 14th, 2021 minutes. Last meeting, we had an informational meeting and we didn't have a quorum to approve the June minutes. Does anyone have any corrections, revisions for the minutes, or a motion to approve?
I make motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you. Anyone to second the motion to approve?
I'll second.
Great, thanks so much. So the minutes from the June 14th meeting are approved without revision. Thank you for preparing those, Ms. Sosa. And the next item of business is our citizen comment, but I checked with Maribel and we don't have any citizen comments this evening. So we can move ahead to introduce our new board member.
Yes, Ms. Shannon, on July 20th, we went to City Commission and Mr. Pequeño was approved or appointed by the commission. And I had the pleasure of having a meeting with Mr. Pequeño at the main branch, and he was very involved with the library. He is a user and he asked a lot of questions. So it was a very awesome meeting. And Mr. Pequeño, I would like to welcome you to the board as a library director, and you could say something.
Yes, thank you. And I look forward to working with everybody on the board. As Mr. Guerra just mentioned, I was just recently appointed. I'm an attorney here in Brownsville, product of Brownsville, grew up around the library system. So I look forward to seeing what we can do to grow the library and move things forward.
Great, thank you so much and welcome. We have been really very happy with the board as it is, and it's so nice to have another member joining us because we've been kind of functioning since January with the being one member short. So it's great to have you on board, literally, and we look forward to working with you as well. Were there any questions or any comments before we move on from the introduction there? Did any other board members want to say hello to Mr. Pequeño?
Welcome.
Thank you.
Just keep in mind that Mr. Pequeño is filling Ms. Lehman's term, so he'll be here until the end of the year, and hopefully he can apply again and hopefully reappointed for the next session in January.
Excellent, thanks so much. Okay, then we can move on to agenda item number 5 for the Open Meetings Act.
Hello, board members. So since we have a new board member in our midst, Mr. Pequeño, one of the requirements for being part of the board is, or any public board, is you would need to complete the certification for the Open Meeting Act. I included the link here, which I will later provide to you as well, again, in an email with a few other links that City Secretary requires. But also for our other board members, if you're not aware, we do need our certificates for training. So you would click into this link that I have here. Again, I'll provide the link again later in an email. So you would watch a video, which will later on let you print out a certification with your name and everything. You will then send that to me. So for everybody who has not done their Open Meetings Act certification, please keep in mind that this needs to be turned in for every time you join a new board. Okay, thank you.
Quick question, is there a deadline we have to complete this by?
There's not a hard set deadline, but the sooner the better, just for auditory purposes.
Yes, City Secretary is requesting for us to have something on file.
It takes maybe a couple hours. You watch a video, go through what's required, best practices, And then at the end of it, you enter your information, and then they send you a link with your completed certificate by email. And it's pretty straightforward. All right. Did any other board members have questions about the Open Meetings Act or how to complete that training? And again, we'll take the silence as no and move on to our library report, agenda item number 6.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Brenda. Our libraries continue to operate under our normal hours of operation. Taking into account our COVID numbers have been rising, we continue to take precautions. Our employees are still practicing social distancing. They're also, the majority of them are still wearing their masks as is recommended, and we have kept up our plexiglass shields at all of our desks. We have also recently started a cooperation with our health department, and where they're coming into our Southmost library on Wednesdays to do a vaccine clinic. And that started last week, and it was a very good turnout. And so we will continue that until further notice. And then, of course, our programming does continue as well. Our summer reading program just concluded, and Chase is going to talk about that in a little bit. But we are also starting our soft programming coming this month and actually next week. And we're going to be including some story times and some moving times, seeing how that goes. It's going to be in person. And then we've also been focusing on doing some outreach. We've gone the last couple of months over to the farmers market to go ahead and promote that we are open again, trying to get people back in here and letting them know about our services. We've also gone ahead and last week attended the soft opening for Bibliotech Brownsville. It is a collaboration between the Brownsville Housing Authority from MOU and where we are going ahead and promoting our databases down at Bibliotech. And we now also have a little bit of more information on the grants that we've applied to. We actually got the official award letter for our One Read, One Book grant. So we'll be going ahead and starting that coming soon. And then we also got good news and on our Texas Book Festival grant. We actually were awarded that grant as well. And so the next step is that we're going to go ahead and start purchasing our digital ebooks for our juvenile language collection. And lastly, we will be actually applying for another grant with the FCC emergency connectivity grant, in which we're hoping that if we are awarded, we'll be able to purchase laptops, hotspots, and tablets for our patrons to be able to check out. And that's it for this month. Any questions?
Brenda, this is Mrs. Ayala. Are the masks required or not at the library, or is it?
No, ma'am. They're not required. It's recommended. And most of our library patrons that have come in, the majority do wear them, but it's not a requirement.
And is the staff required to wear it, or also it's up to them?
It's also recommended, but the majority of them are playing it safe and wearing them.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Brenda. That's fantastic news about the grants. Big round of applause for you guys for getting 2 of those approved. It's amazing.
So far, Ms. Shannon, it's been 2 for 2, and hopefully it'll be 3 for 3. We're excited for the opportunity for these grants for the FCC to, we have a big collection of electronic materials. So it would be great if we were able to check out, procure electronic equipment so we can provide for the patients checkout. So that goes hand in hand, and let's hope that we're in a great role and we are able to obtain this grant.
Absolutely. And I think, given the pandemic, we really saw the digital divide. And so I'm really hopeful that we can overcome some of these challenges in the community, and it'd be great if the library could be a service provider for that. So again, thanks so much for all your hard work and shepherding those grant applications through. I know they're a lot of work. Do we have any questions, comments for Ms. Brenda before we move on to Case's report on the summer reading program? Okay, thank you, Ms. Brenda.
Hi, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. So for those who are new, my name is Chase Sant. I'm a librarian with the Brownsville Public Library. I do oversee the children's and teen collection here at the main branch library. So we just actually wrapped up our summer 2021 summer reading program, and we were so excited. We had over 500 participants this year, which is really special just because last year it was a little different just because of the closure with COVID and everything like that. So for us, we kind of felt like this was like our comeback year for the program. So it was just very special. So going through the PowerPoint and everything like that, these are just some photos that we saw a little bit of last meeting, but then we have some new photos. Just because we did have some follow-up activities throughout July with gaming tournaments and art contests and stuff like that. And we were just so excited to see patrons coming in and being able to utilize our services and just find out how they are realizing the library is still here for them and we're still being able to provide our services for them. So yeah, we want to make sure we thank our sponsors again. You know, those are the people that help make our program the success that it is. So we did reach out to like Starbucks, Dunkin', HEB, Walmart, Target. We reached out to Crepe Town, which is a restaurant downtown. So really utilizing small businesses as well. And then of course we want to make sure we recognize Friends of the Library. They are just a big part of what makes our program the success that it is. So we want to make sure we give credit to them as well. So yeah, we had a very amazing time this summer. It was, like I said, great to see our patrons back in the library enjoying themselves, and we're ready for next year.
Thank you, Chase. And hi, Kayla, I see you there. That's so wonderful to have good participation. I know you really expanded your target audience this year to include also adults. How did that go? Did you have a good number of adults participating as well?
Yeah, so we really wanted to, because I know in the past our big focus has been getting like kids in and really pushing that whole literacy gap, especially trying to fill that here in Brownsville and everything like that. And we really wanted to put also that focus on show how reading is important for all ages, especially adults. So we did like a scrapbooking event, we did a gaming tournament, and we try to like really target different audience groups because we all recognize that different audiences have different interests. And they were actually really big turnouts. So their ideas for us to potentially bring them back in the fall as different events and really work on providing that programming and show how libraries are more than just places where you can come in and read, but it's a place to gather and really just create, explore, discover, and just find yourself.
Fantastic. Thanks so much. Does anyone have any questions about the summer reading program or comments? And thanks again to those folks who are with the Friends of the Library for providing that support and funding. Okay, if there aren't any questions, are there any questions or should we move on to the makerspace? Okay, we'll turn it over to our makerspace folks.
All right, guys, I'm going to try to share this with some sound. Give me just a second so I can see if I can get it to, so you guys can hear the sound here. Do you guys hear sound? No? Okay, give me a second then. Hold up, share. Okay. Do you hear sound now? No?
If it's okay, they can just go ahead and play it, or just John and Lazaro recap
Hold up,
future
let me see.
programming.
Awesome.
Okay. Hello, can you all hear me? Awesome. Okay. So my name is John. I'm one of the Makerspace advisors here for the library. So I wanted to start with that video just so we all can get in that that right mindset of what a makerspace is and what it is and stuff like that. Um, sorry. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and start the presentation with the designing a makerspace program. So we can go ahead and go into the next slide. Awesome. So just a quote, a type of space with new technology where a product can be created with the collaboration of fellow users on the topic of makerspaces. So I kind of just wanted to put this quote in there so we can kind of keep on instilling with y'all what a makerspace is. A makerspace is basically like a community center where people can come with ideas and they come and create their own things, right? If they can dream it, they can build it, basically. The agenda for today is just going to be a little bit of what is a makerspace, why start one, the intended audience and impact, the technology, and then a Q&A session at the end. So again, like what is a makerspace? It's kind of like I said it before, it's just a creative DIY space where people come together and learn. Whether it's you coming in with one thing and you want to do 3D printing and somebody else comes in and does like robotics and stuff, you all can communicate with each other and the robotics person's probably like, I need a shell for the robot and the 3D experience. So that's kind of like building that community and do cross collaboration stuff like that. So that's basically the idea behind it. Why start it? Again, it builds community, unlocking the human potential. It benefits people and learners of all ages. So this is not only geared towards kids, not only geared towards adults. A makerspace is what you make of it, basically. So we're going to be targeting all patrons with this stuff. So I know everybody in Brownsville can get something out of it. Again, just going off a little bit of the patrons we're going to be having. So kids, it fosters creativity, inclusion. Teens, it gives you the real world experiences, maybe some portfolio pieces when you go off to college. Adults, it's let's say you're really good at crafting something with wood and woodworking, but you know you want to have a little bit more sense of community instead of just carving wood in your like makeshift makerspace at your own home office. Basically, you can come to the library and either partner up with other hobbyists and create something new or create something even better than you even thought before. It also cultivates this learning center, basically. So that's kind of what we're aiming for here. And then some of the technology we hope to offer our patrons in the future will be some 3D printers, both the FDM printers, which is like the plastic printers, and then like resin printers, so it's a little bit like harder plastic, basically. Some 3D design support we're going to have is like Fusion 360, Blender, so those are the 3D program and modeling software that they can be using. We'll hope to offer some vinyl and laser cutters as well in the future so they can expand their possibilities. Some sewing machines and e-textiles, basic stuff, but you know, still part of makerspace. And then part of the technology, we're looking at getting maybe some robotics and circuits, which is like circuit boards, spheros, makeys, maybe some CNC machines, electronics and soldering, which is Arduino kits, a Raspberry Pi, depending on like the patron demand, which one they want to see more of. We'll try to foster it as much as we can here in the makerspace. And then, awesome.
Yep. Hello, my name's Lázaro. I'm the other makerspace advisor here with the library. So before you, what you're currently seeing is the current views of the main branch, the way that it looks right now. There is one room in the back room. It used to be the BTV room. Kind of turned into a little bit of a storage area. But that's the area that we'll be working with. Eventually, we're going to house a couple of different machines in there. One of them is going to be a CNC router. That'll be the one on your left side. From there, we'll have a metal 3D printer, a furnace, and then a laser cutter. And then right outside the room, we're hoping to include a large format 3D printer. And the cool thing about that large format 3D printer is that you could print out things up to a meter by a meter by a meter. Like that's its build volume. So there's been very creative people that have made even furniture out of that large format 3D printer. And then in the southmost branch, this is what it currently looks like. We will be incorporating the teens area into the makerspace a little bit more because some of the computers that we'll be using to design some of the computers that we'll be providing so that they could create their 3D prints would be along the wall of the teens area. And then the inside of the makerspace is what it currently looks like. And then if we go on to the next page, that gives us a small layout of what it would look like if you were looking from the inside of makerspace out towards the library. I do have another image of the wall that's facing the opposite way. And if we could share our screen, we'll show that to you. Give me one moment here. Yeah, so on the opposite wall of what you are currently seeing, you see there that we have very similar machines to what we have as hopeful machines for the future for the main branch. So they're the same machines. We're just kind of working with laying out the different materials and the different programs that we're gonna need in each of the different spaces for the libraries. Yeah, so that's our current plan right now. We have started to do a couple more prints right now. We're working with doing prints within the library. So a couple of the employees have given suggestions of prints that they've wanted. And the reason that we started within the library is because if we do run into any issues, it's a little bit easier to work with an employee to address the issue that we might be having with their print. And it also gives us the practice that eventually when we are ready for the patrons, we'll be able to address any questions or concerns that they may have. Right now, as we're speaking, we're currently working on a bust of an anime character named Naruto. He doesn't look that great yet because he's still going through the melting process. But this is what this guy looks like right now. So he's got a little bit of plastic on his face. I'm not sure if you can see that.
Oh, no. There we go.
Yeah. So that's what he looks like right now. We have some of the plastic that is supposed to melt off within water still coming off him, but eventually he'll look good and he'll be ready to go home to its new owner. But that's just an example of one of the things that we are going to be able to do with the 3D printers. And then Makerspace is not just going to be 3D printers. We'll have a couple of CNC machines and laser cutters available as well, so that people that are or want to do some type of vinyl work will have those machines available for them as well. Any questions?
I would like to add that we actually, Lazaro, myself, and John, we went to the farmers market and did some outreach and just starting letting people know what's coming, and they were very excited. It was great. So it was a little bit hot, but it was great, and we had a lot of fun. And we're gonna be going out there in our community and explaining and showcasing what's coming up next.
Rachel Ayala, Mr. Guerra, I do want to compliment you. I was at the main library about 3 weeks ago, and I saw this young man working on the Makerspace, and they were so excited. I got excited just looking at it. But my compliments to you that you also showed me at the Southmost Library where you're going to incorporate that area and you're remodeling to meet the needs of the community. Thank you for that. And young man, you are young. It's exciting to see you what you are creating. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have the same question that Miss Weiss has. Who absorbs like how much are these materials and who's paying for all that? Do the patrons or the library pay for the cost of material?
Yeah, so the actual machines themselves were purchased with the library, but the material that the patron is going to keep, that's going to be charged on a per gram basis. So depending on how large or small their item that they're going to print is going to be, the patron would be paying for that material. That way we're only charging them for what they're going to keep. We're not charging for any additional fees that they're not supposed to be responsible for.
How much were the machines worth, or how much were they bought for?
They have not been bought yet.
Oh, they haven't.
No,
Okay.
it's going to be when they're presented. This is a long-term process. We're going to start with what priority. Little by little, we will be absorbing it through the budget for both branches. So it's little by little, Ms. Sosa. Obviously, we can't procure everything at once, but we'll be doing that. And we already have some of the things. We have a car. Obviously, we already have the 3D printer. So it's going to be little by little priority. The first thing is making the room. The Southmost Makerspace, it's part of our work plan. So we're already working on basically remodeling it, make sure that we have enough power to provide the juice for the equipment. So this is a long-term thing, but we're barely starting, and it'll be part of our budget, like buying a furniture or desk or something. But
How much do they regularly cost? Do you know?
Probably John and Lazaro will be giving more of an idea.
The 3D printers are ranging about $3,500
Okay, per printer.
Per printer, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
What's the price per gram that would be charged to the patrons for?
We're still looking at those numbers at the moment, but we're looking at maybe like 8, 9, and 10 cents. Like 8 cents for black and white, 9 cents for color, and then 10 cents for like glow in the dark.
Yeah.
Okay. So then how soon are you all I guess how soon was this initiative going to how soon will it launch, I guess? What's the timeline if you have one?
Right. Yeah. So for the 3D station for that, because a lot of the machines were already here previous to us being in here, we're going to be able to start up with that sooner. So we're hoping to have those available to the public in January. Right now we're doing testing and we're doing all the things possible to see what issues we might run into with the machine, so we are prepared. That way we're not inconveniencing any of our patrons in the future once it is available to them.
And would it work the same way as like the computer center where you have to just like book time, or It just depends on the availability of the machine.
It depends on the availability. So like, let's say each 3D print, for example, takes roughly between like a few hours to a few days. The little bus that we were showing you earlier took about 5 days to print. So let's say you and like 5 other people want a 3D prints, we'll just add you to the queue. So it just really just depends how long the queue in front of you is lasting. If that makes sense.
I would imagine they'd be really popular. I guess why I was like, I would imagine there'd be a big demand.
Yeah, there's been a lot of people passing by like, oh my God, when can we do it? And we're like, soon for sure. So there's excitement for sure to do it.
Thank you.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Lazaro, for that presentation. I'm glad you showed the video again for folks that might have missed it last month. Were there any other comments or questions about the makerspace, the equipment, the services that are planned, timeline? I can talk from a little bit of experience when we just had one tiny 3D printer out front at the main branch library. It was not yet for public use, but it drew a lot of attention. People just love to stop and watch that additive process and see the thing, you know, really coming into form in front of their eyes. So yeah, once it catches on, I think it's going to be very popular. Okay, if there are no other comments or questions, we can move on to the Southmost Branch grand reopening.
Hi everyone, my name is Kayla. I'm one of the librarians here at the library. I work really closely with Chase on youth services, and I am leading the planning of the grand reopening of the Southmost Branch Library. So this is going to be a community event that is meant to draw our patrons back to the library. It's a bit of a funny name, but it's meant to be a fun twist on the fact that we've already been open for a couple of months, but we're just now able to really celebrate the fact that we're open again. So I think the play is that we had more of a soft opening, and this is our grand opening, so it's a reopening. The Southmost Branch has also been spruced up with new paint, and we've rearranged the collection. So there's a lot of changes here at the library, and we want to highlight that as well. At the event, we plan to have food and music, and we'll be giving away Brownsville Public Library merch. So we'll be giving away like water bottles and pens and pencils and all this cool stuff with our logo on them. And we'll be hosting story times and crafts, and we are also going to have some live performances. So the first is a book reading and a music performance by Cynthia Islam. She's going to be reading her book, Mr. Moon, Where Do You Go? And we will have copies of that book to give away to all the attendees. Next, we have partnered with the Caravada K. Petrina Cultural Center and the Revival of Cultural Arts to host performances by their students. So they will have dancers of all ages performing, and the finale is going to be their folklorico dancers. And finally, we have invited the Gladys Porter Zoo to do a live animal presentation. So it's going to be a really exciting event. There's going to be a lot going on. So it's a large event for our community, but you know, it's worth it. And we're really hoping that this is going to get our patrons back in the library and just get them excited about the Southmost Branch. So yeah, it's going to happen on Thursday, September 30th, and it'll be an evening event from 4 to 8 p.m. Any questions?
Kayla, this is Mrs. Ayala. I'm very excited about the Southmost Branch Library because I've seen how nice it's looking. How are we communicating, not only with BISD, because we do need to send something so they can send it to the surrounding schools, but also for IDEA and Jubilee, that we have a library located over there that's closer to them and not just on the other side of town. So what is the plan or the plan of action that you're doing to make sure that we do reach out to them?
So I actually already sent a monthly email to the BISD librarians as well as the Harmony librarians. We're working on getting the emails for like IDEA and Jubilee. But basically every month I send them our calendar of events and flyers for various things that we're hosting. As for targeting the Southmost, area, we're hoping to have our flyers ready and to just start handing them out to local businesses, and including, you know, like sending targeted emails to the librarians at CISD and just kind of letting everybody know what is going on and what's going to happen.
Kayla, let me ask you, when you say you're emailing the librarians, do you have all the librarians' emails with VIC?
Yes,
VIC?
because now they're actually available on their website. So if you go, they have a directory for all their employees. And I was able to find, you know, the entire library department, all of their emails. So yes, I do have all their emails.
Oh, thank you, Kayla. I love your initiative. And so we do need to reach out for the other Jubilee idea and on that area. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Kayla. Thanks, Ms. Ayala. Anybody else have any questions about the reopening?
Is it going to be included in the monthly subscription or monthly letter?
Yes, we will be putting it in the September newsletter. Luckily, this is taking place at the end of September, and the newsletter goes out on the 1st, as well as my email to the librarians. So by the first week of September, they'll know that it's happening.
Awesome. It looks great. Looks like it's going to be a good time.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much, Kayla. So we're going to move on then to agenda item 8, discussion and action of the task force extension of service and scope. And before we sort of throw this to the group, last month's meeting was just informational, but I can share with you that the task force presented their final recommendations, and they had some concerns. I think the first one is that the board really needs to provide some formal recognition and acceptance of their proposals. I think they, you know, are kind of like, well, we did the work and now what happens next? And so one of the first steps that we could offer them is to formally recognize and accept the proposals from the task force. And then the second things that they were concerned about are naturally their term is set to expire, and they put in so much work. Task force members really got to know one another. They felt they worked well as a group, and so they were wanting to extend their term. And then the other part of that is that they want to participate in some of this program implementation. So you can imagine they worked together, they brainstormed, they revised and developed and prioritized those tasks that they thought were most important in terms of community outreach, programming, and services. And now they want to stay with it and they want to see it through. So these were the kinds of concerns that came up. I let them know that on behalf of the board, because this was the first time that we'd had a task force, that we were erring on the side of, you know, not trying to overburden them with time commitments. And so we had been relatively hands-off in an effort to not force or impose our will, as well as to allow them to be as creative as possible. But it seems like what they really want is a little bit more guidance and some formalization of the work that they've done. So that's why this item is on the agenda, to consider extending their service and expanding the scope of what the task force is working on.
Rachel Ayala, I got some feedback from the task force, and they really did a wonderful job in terms of the recommendation. But like as Shannon was saying, where do we go now? How is it implemented? Who are they supposed to speak to? And to them, it wasn't a burden. They enjoyed it. They really plan. We're blessed to have people with experience. Ms. Peña, who was Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum, and you had other people just as knowledgeable. So I would like to see it extended and implemented, because there's no sense in just working on it and living on top of the table. So I know that we can go ahead and assist them. I know Mr. Guerra and some of the others are very good with working with them. So I recommend that we continue with this task force.
Ms. Ayala, did anyone express any term length?
Not really. I think it's as they go, when they see that this what they recommended is being implemented, they will go ahead and say, okay. But the way it was done is that they worked it, but there was not any unity with the library to see if it was going to be implemented. And they learning, next time we do need to have somebody there from the library sitting with them, so they can suggest, hey, this is the way we can implement it, this is what they can do, and this is the next step that we need to take place. And like I said, it was a lot of work. There are a lot of good ideas that would be great for both libraries, for our community. And the main thing is we got the community involved. That's one of our, I think, one of our goals as being board members, for that, for the community, for the students, and for everybody in the city of Brownsville.
Shannon, can I add something to that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Mr. Leo, unfortunately, he's been out, but he has been very integral part of the task force, and what the task force recommended, we definitely are gonna do it, and I would like if you guys consider extension of the task force, but we are gonna put into fruition. We are gonna put in priority, which some of the things they recommended we are doing already. But some of the things, everything that was recommended, we'll be doing in one way, shape, or form. And obviously, if they, since they were the creators of that, they can be helping us and make sure that we are following through. But our plan and our goal is to follow through, depending on the priority, what we can do first, what we can do second, all that. But definitely, this is not gonna go on the wayside, that's for sure. And Leo will be the one interacting with them.
Mr. Guerra,
Yes.
I know you will. That's exactly what I like, your recommendation that we continue, so we can work as a partner together. And then, once that is done, then they can decide, okay, it's time for the task force, perhaps, to either go ahead and be used as an advisory board or whatever is decided among them. But I think it's good that we're working together.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so if we could have a formal, they submitted their presentation to us, and I think what they would like is a formalized acceptance of that. And it would be good to have that submitted to us as a PDF or something. Maybe our board members could sign off on it. Maybe we could have a formal, meeting with them specifically to thank them for their work, outside of our regular board meeting, whatever we can do to show them that we appreciate the work that they did, and to make sure that they know that we are holding ourselves accountable, and that they understand that action will happen. So I'm not really sure how that looks, but I do think we need to formally do something to allay any concern they have. In terms of extension of time, do you all have any recommendations? 90 days more, 120 days? Do we want to, how much longer do we want to extend their service?
Shannon, this is Rachel Ayala again. I think that would be determined when we discuss it and not at the meeting. Unfortunately, last time that we discussed it, not everybody, we weren't able to do any decisions because we didn't have enough members. Maybe we can do something virtually that, we can discuss back and forth with them, and at that time, decide what would be the time, that it will be extended or I don't think we can determine that at this time until
No,
we
we
see
can,
what
we
they
can
are.
certainly, right, but we can certainly discuss it because I think the problem that they've had is that we come to them without recommendations or guidance. So I think we should use this opportunity tonight to discuss some potential extensions or ways of extending their time. So we can go to them and say, we're happy to defer to whatever you wish, but we can, we discussed it, we think a minimum 90 days with the potential to, extend it again, or that, it could be somehow with tied into project implementation. So then instead of putting a deadline on it, their service, that the project implementation will determine their length of service. I think we can have a little bit of a discussion about that beforehand.
I do agree, perhaps, like you said right now, that we can say, all right, we decide 90 days, but that doesn't mean that we won't extend it if it's necessary, and that's workable.
Hello. Nice to see you all. I have a question. I'm a little confused. I thought the whole purpose of the task force was to come up with the recommendations, which they've already done. So if we extend their time, is it to come up with more recommendations, or is it to watch the implementation of the recommendations? Because as I understand it, we are an advisory board. So all we can do is advise. At the end of the day, it's the library's prerogative to determine how they're the timeline or how things are gonna get done. So, I mean, if you wanna have it restart again, like if you wanna make this like a yearly thing where we have the task force come in and look at, okay, so a year later, this is what was accomplished, and then they can give us more recommendations. Because otherwise 90 days, what are they going to be doing in these 90 days? You know what I mean?
Well, that's exactly right, Alma, and that's why it says it's an extension of their scope as well, because the original plan was, as you mentioned, this was something that was part of the total alignment plan for the library to start this task force, and we voted for it to be implemented as a task force. And we agreed to the terms of service, but now the feedback we've gotten from the task force is they want to continue. So you're exactly right. We need to, if we're going to think about extending service, we also have to then think about expanding scope.
In no way are they thinking of adding more recommendations at all. I think what they want to do is to go ahead and present it to the board, to the library with Juan and then discussion if they have any questions, how it can be implemented, just clarification. So like that, because they did work very hard on this. And I know, and 90 days is just a number that Shannon threw out there. That I said, okay, it may be less, it may be more. It just depends. Once they get things working, and then at that time they'll say, well, it's no longer necessary. If you have any questions as to what our thoughts were at that time, that's all it is.
Okay, so it sounds like what you're talking about is having like a formal introduction or delivering of their recommendations to the library director.
Library director, whoever he deems he wants it.
And then maybe we can use the 3D printers and y'all can create some kind of certificate or something to give them to thank them for their service. And maybe we can come up with something where the people who served, I'm assuming we're going to do this this task force again. when we do it again, maybe the people who have served get preference to be on it again. I mean, that way we can thank them for the work they've done.
I don't think it was so much thanking them. I think they were really excited about having been put on this task force. Like Shannon said, they work very well together. They're very excited of the implementation. But it's a lot different presenting you the paperwork as to presenting you. And if you have any questions, hey, what did you mean with this? That's all it is. That's all it is. And if later on, if they want another task force or something else, it's fine. But this initially is just to get it going.
Can I
Yeah,
add
so
something?
Certainly.
Yeah, the task force already made recommendations, and we have a list of what they want. We certainly agree with most of them, if not all. And as Ms. Knopp said, we need to do it depending on staff time, financial, but we intend to do everything. Perhaps this is a suggestion that the task force may need is maybe like a letter thanking them, and then maybe a new a follow up. You know, this is what we like a follow up or an update. This is what a check in. This is what we've been doing. Thank you, and then just advising the board of what we have been doing as an option. And yes, I agree. Maybe a certificate, but they already made the recommendations to us. They made a presentation to us. So I would think that an extension only just for them to receive a thank you for the thing, and also we can do a follow ups as needed as to what have we doing based on those recommendations.
Mr. Guerra, that was not the intention of the task force to receive any sort of recognition.
Okay.
Okay. And as far as they felt that they had done a lot of work and this work is not being listened to or put to fruition, not because you don't want to at all. It's because they haven't had the opportunity to present it, and due to the pandemic has not helped any. And it's not recognition that I was on this committee, because honestly, as far as they're concerned, it was a waste of time if it is not implemented, if they're not listened to. And I am only letting you know what I have what I have been told as a board member, and I'm just sharing it with you. They don't want a certificate. They don't want anything. Let's listen to them, or you plan how they can sit and talk and really they put a lot of hours. At least we can give them the courtesy of listening to them.
Yeah, and I think everyone's getting hung up on the word recognition. What I'm saying is a formal recognition and acceptance of the proposal from the task force. So when they presented to us and we said, can you provide it in a formal manner where you have prioritized some of the services that you want to implement or some of the outreach that you want to do, they went ahead and did that. And so I think what we need to do is, like I said, either have a special meeting where we, again, sit through the presentation again and let them know, the timeline of when certain projects will be rolled out, and let them know that the stakeholders within the task force will be consulted. So, for example, the storybook trail that is going to be implemented, because that was proposed by Cynthia Lazardi-Burlett, that she will then know that, yes, this is something we will keep you looped in on. We will, we value your feedback and participation. So at the very least, we do probably need to, like I said, have a special meeting for that.
I like that, Shannon. That's exactly what they want. That's all.
And so in that, if we do that, then we don't have to extend the scope, because then it is, we're formally accepting their recommendations. And then for the next implementation, they can reapply for a new round or iteration of the task force, or I even recommended to some of them that since they were enjoying this kind of work, that they consider applying to the Public Library Advisory Board, because those will be up for some renewals and new appointments in January. So, so yeah, I think they just really are looking to be, not for them to be patted on the back, but for their work and their ideas, to know that they are going to be implemented. And if possible, if we can give them a timeline for certain things, all the better. Does that clarify things for the board?
Shannon, I think that's a great idea. That's exactly what they want. Not an extension, but to be exactly what you said, for us to listen, and then they can plan, the library can plan their own timeline.
Juan, when is the plan for the next iteration of the task force? Is this something you all are going to be doing annually, or is there a plan for that?
That we have not discussed that. That's something that maybe the board can advise us on that. If you recall, the board reports to the task force reports to you. So it will be up to the board if they want to reenact it, maybe at the beginning of the fiscal year, or the beginning of the year as this task force was created. This task force was created in January. That is up to you, and depending on the needs, it was created because there was some we wanted a different point of view, and so the board can create it again at their discretion.
I think, this is Rachel Ayala again, I think the creation of a task force can be discussed later. Right now, we just need to put a, finalize what we have here, and then determine what it would be necessary to do it again for next year. So
yeah, I was just curious because, again, this was something that the library came to us with as part of the total alignment. So that's why I'm asking, to make sure that they're meeting the city manager's goals for total alignment. Did anyone else on the board have some ideas, some thoughts about the task force? And it sounds like we can agree that they have met the term, that we don't need to expand scope, and we can potentially move forward with having a special meeting. Does that sound like something amenable to the group?
I agree with that. I think it sounds like they just want to make sure that stuff is implemented. And if you could, like you said, formally accept their recommendations and possibly coordinate with the library. So give them a timeline of like a projected timeline. So at least they'll know, this is what we recommended. This is how the library is planning on implementing it. And then, well, their projected one, right? Because obviously the library always has a lot of things going on and some things take priority over others, but it sounds like that's what they want. And I think that sounds like a good idea to do that and give them that projected timeline so they feel like, okay, yes, this is going to be taken and ran with in the future. Not right now, because obviously you can't do everything at the same time, but maybe in the future. And then, obviously if they could be tied in when it actually is implemented and called up to, like, just be there when it happens. I'm sure they would appreciate that. But I think I would agree with that, just as far as accepting their recommendations. And then if the library wants to give us some type of proposed timeline for implementing them, so at least they know what's going to happen with it, I think that would be great for everybody, for the task members. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Shane. Thank you. That's exactly what it is.
Ms. Alma, does this speak to some of your concerns then? Dissolution?
I'm sorry. This
I
is
think
Rachel.
you're on mute. I think you're on mute, Miss Nope.
I'm sorry. Yes, I was gonna say that yes, I agree with what you're recommending. But I also want to say that it's our responsibility as the people on the advisory board to also keep in mind the recommendations and to ensure that eventually they do get implemented, right? We also have that responsibility too. Okay?
100%. Yeah. So this can maybe be something that, just like we receive the library report every month, maybe then we can do a task force portion of that. So every month, so we get feedback on where things are going. Okay. So do we need to formalize having a special meeting with a call for action?
Sounds like it, yes.
And when are we gonna do this, to have this, meeting? Because the sooner we do it, the better. And like that, we can start to, one can plan on the implementation. And, and for us to also plan, when you're gonna have the presentation, because last time not everybody was present, and it's very important that we all be there.
Can we make our September meeting a special meeting?
Most definitely, and I think that's what I was thinking, Ms. Shannon. Focus on that. That September meeting gives us a month for to communicate with them, and just basically our meeting would be the majority will be on the task force. Just if anything pops up, like we get awarded for the grant, but other than that, it will be most special meeting regarding the task force. Yeah, and probably I think in September. Let me look at my calendar. It will be September 13th.
We do have Labor Day on the Monday. Do we need to jump?
So basically the 20th then, because the first Monday will be September. The first Monday will be the 6th, which is Labor Day. So it's probably the 20th, September 20th. And that's also a perfect timing, so we can also, advertise the re-rec grand opening of the Sosmos Library. So September 20th will be the projected special meeting that gives us ample time to get together.
Does that work for the group? Can we does anyone have a different time? Okay, got a yes here in the chat.
Do you need a motion on that?
Yeah, well, we will, but I just want to make sure the date works for folks before we go forward with a motion. So I'm going to call then for a motion for a special meeting on Monday, September 20th for our task force.
I, Rachel Ayala, make a motion that we meet on September the 20th to discuss the task force. That's it.
Thank you. And who can second that motion?
I second.
I second that motion.
Excellent. Thank you, ladies. Okay, so the next item on our agenda is to discuss the Friends of the Library soft opening and a call for volunteers. I believe this is something that Ms. Ayala wants to speak to.
Friends of the Library, we had a meeting with some volunteers that we have, and we spoke to Juan. One of the recommendations was that at the Southmost Library that the Friends not be open. It's a very small room. I don't think there's enough ventilation, and with what's going on right now, we need to be very careful. Now, Juan, you want to talk to your conversation with Calvin, how you need to, what you're going to implement to make sure that it's safe for everybody?
Most definitely. If you want to, I can also call Mr. Walker. He's having connectivity problems. But yeah, what I can highlight is that even the Friends have a special plexiglass, like a staff member. They can be behind it. They can create social distancing. We already opened a soft opening at the main branch, and it has been very successful. One of the recommendations, obviously, we can train the staff or the volunteers as to what do we do. We sanitize that room so it is safe. And at the main branch, we can also put like a table outside for the volunteer to be there, and they don't feel to be inside the room, and they can do that. I was not part of the meeting, Ms. Rachel, what everything was discussed, but we are here to help as much as possible to train the volunteers. I know that he's having problems getting volunteers. I don't think there's any volunteers for the sophomores. There have been openings on the Saturday and Sunday for the past couple of weeks. But we definitely are helping out with re-shelving the books. We're using our staff to shelve the books, make it look presentable. And so far it's been successful, but it's only been open during the weekends with a very limited volunteers. But we do recommend for them to be social distancing as our staff. Again, we cannot expect them to wear masks, but we strongly suggest they wear masks, and I really strongly suggest for them to be social distancing. But again, it's up to the Friends in the need for the board, the Friends board, to see if they have enough volunteers to even open more than what they already are.
Right now, they're open on Saturday and Sunday. One of the things
Yes.
that I recommended to Juan is that at one time, because they were remodeling, we put tables outside. And for the books, we had a fantastic sale. And that may be a possibility. It just depends, what is happening right now, what is required of Mr. Guerra. Definitely, he works very well with the Friends. And the Friends does give a lot of money to the library for the children, for Santas, taking pictures of Santa. We fund a lot of money. That's where it goes. So I think Mr. Guerra is taking it day by day, making decisions in terms of what is happening right now. Am I correct, Mr. Guerra?
That is correct. And again, I have Mr. Walker on the line. Yet, safety is the most important thing. That's exactly what I said in the meeting, and I would instill that in our staff. Again, the statistics are going a little bit up, so again, it's up to the Friends to decide if they feel comfortable being there. If they don't want to volunteer, they don't want to volunteer. Mr. Walker, can you speak up on what's your recap on the volunteering at the Friends?
Sure. We've been opening on Saturday and Sunday only during the month of August. And we are having a meeting on August the 28th on a Saturday to determine when we're going to open full time. Right now, I don't see it happening in September unless things change. I think there's too much with the Delta variant that we don't know about, and more than half of our volunteers are above 60 years of age. And I don't want to subject them to the possibility of being sick or carrying the virus back to their home. So right now, I think we're going to continue with the weekend, Saturday and Sundays, but I don't have enough volunteers for Southmost.
And and Ms. Ayala recommended not to open Southmost for the time being.
That's fine.
Well, no, I am not to open it. Like I said, the space is not conducive. I don't think it's safe because it's very, very small. There's not enough air circulation. So at this time, for the safety of the library staff and the community, we're going to wait. It's a wait and see what is going on. But we do
Yes, I agree with that. I agree with that. Anything else?
Any question for Mr. Walker? So right now, Mr. Walker, basically we keep it closed until just for the weekends and see how everything pans out with this variant, right?
Yes, yes. So far, the reaction has been good. When the patrons have come in, they all appreciate being open on Saturday and Sunday. But it's just too risky right now to open it during the week. So we'll wait until the end of August when we have our next meeting and decide as best we can at that time based on what the facts are.
Thank you, Mr. Walker.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so yeah, this is very much an emergent situation with COVID, with the Delta variant. And we have a school year starting for folks. So I think, you know, the conservative approach here makes a lot of sense. I wonder if at the farmer's market, do you all have flyers or anything to promote volunteer opportunities among the community? I know that we would occasionally get approached by high school seniors who needed volunteer hours as part of their graduation. I'm not suggesting anyone younger than 18 because I know that there's, you know, cleaning and money handling and things like that. But would that be a good place to recruit volunteers?
Ms. Shannon, yeah, Ms. Shannon, we have obviously we put it on social media. We put it inside the library. You can see the sign there in the picture. We are going next month. We're gonna go to the Pulga, the flea market. Maybe we can ask if there are volunteers there. And then when we do go to farmers market, I was there this past Saturday, and we did not advertise that, but that is a good idea. And again, we're doing every platform to do. Maybe consider, you know, there was a good article in the newspaper, and that helped a little bit. But maybe have our communications department do something. But we are putting it out there. It's just, I guess, the biggest, the proverbial elephant in the building. It's the COVID-19. You know.
I have a
Absolutely.
suggestion.
Yes.
You can always go to the probation department at Cameron County. There's tons of people that need to do community service hours. Speaking from my own client's experience, lots of my clients need to do that. The low level offenders, you know, DWIs, whatever, what have you. They need a lot of, they need to do their community service hours. I'm just saying, just a suggestion.
Mr. Guerra, one of the things that we discussed at the meeting there at the library was that we had not opened it before to any student that's perhaps 18 years old that are seniors, because they do need to do community service when they apply for scholarships. And that is one of the things that we were going to consider, and also the university. So we are working on that.
Perfect. And I believe, Ms. Ayala, correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't veterans have a library club? And perhaps they can, when it's safe to do so, that's my understanding that the Veterans High School has a library club of over 200, and that was pre-pandemic. That's what Ms. Gorena told me. I don't know if that's the case still.
I'm not familiar. I retired 8 years ago. I don't know, but I can find out for us.
Yeah.
Or
And then we also,
I'm so sorry. Or also the Juvenile Detention Center. I was just there at Gerald Hester, and they do have like these programs for children or juveniles, well, they're children, for who are first-time offenders. And it's like a little 6-month program that they're on, and they need to do community service hours. I mean, I would talk to somebody from the probation department or even the judge over there and see how you guys could implement that, because a lot of those kids do need a positive environment. Just a suggestion I would also say.
thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, it's really hard to tell right now. We're having the same issue at the university. Like, is the reason that people are reluctant to volunteer or come to campus for work because of the pandemic, or are they just preferring, you know, other opportunities? So it's a little hard to tell right now. But that discussion there of, you know, taking it day by day, it leads us directly into our discussion and action of in-person meeting dates for our board. Did you all have any thoughts about that for our agenda item number 10?
I'm not opposed to in person. I don't know if anyone wants to hold it to a vote.
If we were to go to in-person meeting, I would strongly suggest that we use that room where they have elections, so we can social distance. Or Shannon had talked of either in person and virtual for those that did not want to come in. And honestly, at this time with this variant, I'm not in favor right now of in-person meetings.
Can I update that, Ms. Ayala? The way it's gonna happen once in September, based on the governor's orders, we can use the meeting room to have a hybrid. Whoever wants to be in person can be in person, and then whoever wants to be in hybrid. That is already setting up for the city commission and for most of the boards besides library board, like the Brownsville Historical Association and things like that. So that would be the meeting room will be set up for that, for being in person and for hybrid.
Good.
Okay, so that means then, if we take an action on this, for September, then in September 20th special meeting would be a hybrid meeting and the meetings thereafter. And one, what is, we have an option here to table the item. Celia, does it allay your concerns that that we would retain the option for folks to call into the meeting with the WebEx format that we currently use?
Again, as it stands now, it has to be a hybrid, starting September 1st. And you can table it for now and whoever we, because if the actual item is discussion and action of in-person meeting. The way I see it is in-person means that everybody's in meetings, so perhaps either be like hybrid, maybe reward it to hybrid meetings, and whoever wants to be in person can be in person, and whoever wants to be in virtually can be virtually. Obviously, because if it's an agenda, anybody can access it via WebEx, whether it's in person or not.
Okay, so to clarify then, we are going to table the action for in-person meeting dates, and we will continue with hybrid meeting dates effective September.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Do we have a motion to table the in-person meeting date?
I'll make a motion to table the in-person meeting date.
And can someone second the motion?
Rachel Ayala, second the motion.
Okay. So the motion passes to table then the in-person meeting date for a future time, and we will commence our hybrid meeting. For those who wish to attend in person, they can do so at the main branch library for the September meeting. And for those who continue to prefer the convenience, even I would say, of the WebEx meetings, those of us who work late or travel, then that's going to be a good option. I hope we can retain that flexibility for a little bit longer. Okay, was there anything else, any comments or questions that arose from our meeting tonight that we want to hear before a motion for adjournment? Thanks again, Mr. Pequeño, for joining us tonight. Some of our meetings are short and some of them are a little longer. It just depends. This is a little longer than most. Okay.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Pequeño, for being part of the team.
Yes, I make a motion to adjourn meeting.
Thank you. All right. Anyone opposed to adjournment? take that as a no. So we adjourn tonight at 6:55. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Take care. Be safe, please.
Yeah, same here. Be safe.
Thank you.